All right, hello there, and welcome to another video on how to get that high score. And I know a lot of you are looking for 7s or 8s in reading. Um, I'm going to quickly just introduce what I always like to introduce, and that's my philosophies about doing IELTS or OET or any of those tests. First of all, please remember, reading is a habit, not a skill. All right, I want you to think differently about this. If you read every day, if you're reading newspapers, if you're reading magazines, if you're actually reading real English regularly, your reading will get better. Um, your skill isn't that's something you do occasionally, but really you want to have a new way of thinking about reading. It's a habit. Read every day. That's it. If you want to improve your reading, read every day. I'm here to help you with improving a little bit, but really, the more you practice, the better you will get. Secondly, as always with all of my readings, I'm going to tell you to kindly remember, read the text first, not the questions. I know a lot of teachers teach that way. It is ridiculous. Please stop doing it. You need to get better at reading, and if you're reading and trying to remember questions at the same time, you're not going to get better. You're trying to do two things at the same time, and I know what you're thinking, like, oh, but my teacher says. I used to do it for years. As soon as I stopped doing it, my students started getting 8, 8.5, and sometimes even 9. Let it go. Finally, do not skim and scan. Do not look for key words. We're not doing multiple choice here, but don't think about keywords. I don't really understand why they do that. All right, the main thing you need to remember is read and get the ideas of the paragraphs, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Today also, with the actual IELTS test, we'll be looking at detail questions. That looks like this. These small questions where you have to then look, they'll give you a small detail, and you have to go back and find it. Oh, needle in a haystack, but we're going to do it. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is how to read. So let's take a look at these paragraphs. Now, we've got this text here, and what I want you to do whenever you're reading from now on is read the paragraph, and I want you to get, now, I have to be careful here, you're getting the idea, but it's not like the main idea as in what the paragraph talks about. I want you to look for what I'm calling the organizational principle. Okay, clearly my computer doesn't like British spelling. All right, so you're looking for the organizational principle, and let's talk about that now. In your first paragraph, you're usually going to get one of these three ideas: a definition, a problem, or a novelty. So novelty, I should be a bit clearer with. That's something new, something exciting, something interesting. Most of the time in IELTS or OET, that's what the text is about. So you want to read and identify that. Problem, pretty easy, and a definition, pretty easy. Usually in the first paragraph of an IELTS academic reading, that's what's going to be the topic of the paragraph. And then just let your mind remember what it wants to remember. Then in the body paragraphs, you're going to get mostly these. Not always, but a lot of times. Problem, solution, okay, obviously. That solution will usually be towards the end. Cause and effect relationships. And that's the main thing the test is doing. It's testing your ability to understand how ideas relate to each other. We've also got history, so what happened in the past, what's led to the current situation, how it works, procedures or processes. So if this is an article about a vaccine for a disease, there's probably going to be a paragraph that talks about how the vaccine works. Criticism, my favorite, but, although, and however. So at some point, if someone is saying a good thing, they're going to then disagree with it, and usually you'll see one of those words. There's often the research paragraph. It's fairly straightforward. By the way, when I do this in class, a lot of students get hung up on comparisons, like if they compare a vaccine to another vaccine, or they compare one disease to another disease. And that's a good thing to notice, but remember, the comparison has to support the organizing principle. Usually the comparison is not the organizational principle. Now, if any of you are going, what's an organizational principle? Well, watch more of these videos and you'll start to get the idea clearly. That's the other thing. Repetition is more important than understanding. It's easy to understand something one time, but 2 weeks later, it's gone. Tomorrow, it's gone. So watch this video again. Watch the other videos on reading. They're going to help you. Finally, the conclusion. Now, I don't know why people say the conclusion is a summary of what you've already said. That is a lie. Even IELTS textbooks say that. I don't know why. A conclusion is usually making the point, like, why did you read all this? What is the message they're trying to tell you? And a very common thing they do is look to the future, and that could be a warning, a recommendation, or a prediction. Okay, I'm going to move this over here, and we're going to get to work. So I've transcribed this article for you. And I'm going to just trust you, all right? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. You'll have to press pause. So press pause when I say pause, and I want you to read the first paragraph. So first of all, let's look at the title, Reducing the Effects of Climate Change. All right, so first of all, you know climate change is a problem, but this is about reducing the effects. So everything in this article is going to be a solution, all right? That's the first thing. Also, positive attitude. This is really important. You need to understand that the writer, even if he doesn't say, I like this solution, solving a problem is a good thing. Solving climate change is a good thing. So that's the writer's attitude is going to be, this is good information, mostly. Okay, even if he doesn't say it directly, we know that these are going to be generally positive. Now, let's take a look. We've got, Mark Rowe reports on the increasingly ambitious engineering projects explored by scientists. So this is interesting. Increasingly ambitious being explored. So this kind of tells me already that we're looking at novelty, something new. So I suspect we're going to see that in the future. All right, so you've got 30 seconds. I want you to read this paragraph. I'm going to press pause. Go ahead. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've read that. If you didn't, shame on you. If you did, good. You're going to learn faster. So let's see. Such is our dependence on fossil fuels and such is the volume. Wow, okay, so this is already a lot of language and it's a bit confusing. This is not common grammar. Such is our dependence. I'm not going to go into detail, but what I notice here, many experts agree that significant global warming is now inevitable. All right, so we've got a problem here. So as I'm reading that, I'm like, all right, problem. By the way, when new words come in, don't look them up right away, but look them up later. They believe the best we can do is keep it at a reasonable level, and at present the only serious option is cutting back on our carbon emissions. Okay, so solution, cut back carbon emissions. But, all right, they're going to disagree. The majority are having difficulty, and they're not reversing it. Consequently, an increasing number of scientists are beginning to explore the alternative of geoengineering. Okay, so here we have a solution and a novelty. A term which generally refers to the intentional large-scale manipulation of the environment. All right, so we've got a definition. All right, so basically what we've got here is novelty. Geoengineering is a new idea, all right? You've also got here a definition, and this information here isn't really that important. The main point is new idea, novelty, and there's a definition. All right, so as you can see already, we've got a few of these things appearing already, and this is common. Most of your IELTS or OET articles will look like this. Take a look at paragraph 2, press pause, go ahead. Welcome back. All right, I just read this whole thing and I saw how it works. All right, geoengineering has been shown to work. Okay. For decades, So now they start giving these examples. Moscow, dry ice to disperse clouds. All right, so something they did to make it work. To do the opposite and reduce the amount of sunlight. Okay, so I'm seeing these like process and procedure language. Reduce the sunlight. Employ. Each weighing up to 1 gram, and then we go reduce the amount of light reaching the Earth. So this is all explaining how the system would work. So even though it's really tricky, like I'm not totally sure like exactly how it's going to work, but I can see that this is explaining what they're trying to do. So they mention in Moscow that they tried to disperse clouds, and then they said do the opposite. So interesting. That is also a comparison. But again, the comparison supports the main idea, how it works. They did this in Moscow, and we're going to do the opposite, according to the University of Arizona. All right, so again, like I said, if you're thinking, Mark, how did you see that? I do this almost every day. So remember, the more you practice doing this, the easier it's going to get. All right, you got like 20 seconds. Press pause and read C. All right, welcome back. So I like this. So far carried out. Right, so the ones they have already done. Focused on achieving a general cooling of the Earth. Okay, so again, I'm feeling like how it works. If you replenish the ice, more light will be reflected back to space, reducing the warming of the oceans. So again, how it works. When I see words like increase or reduce, that's how it works. That's the process. That's the procedure. Ooh, paragraph D goes on to 2 pages. 30 seconds, go. Okay, welcome back. Again, kind of predictable, but I'm seeing how it works. So, yeah, the concept has been proposed. Okay, so releasing aerosol sprays into the stratosphere. Ooh, okay, so that's pretty tough. So if your vocab's not great, that's going to be tricky. But I see here, this would involve using. So again, this is how to do it. All right, would form clouds. How it works. In turn, lead to how it works. So this is this procedure. Then I love it. So now that I've thought, all right, this is all about how it works. Then they give some nice examples. Philippines. Sorry, the Philippines. Oh, never forget the. I don't know why that is so difficult. And they mention Greenland, how it worked in Greenland. Then they mention in Russia. So I love this one. It's got some nice, how it works, and then it gives specific examples. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, now, before you read, I've already seen the word but. Remember, but is often going to be some sort of criticism. Go ahead, take 10 seconds, read it, press pause, read. Okay, yeah, so most cautious are the scientists. Okay, so yeah, we've got some criticism, some problems. It might not work. And he says developing renewable energy is the only permanent solution. So generally here they've been positive about how it works. But then we get here and they're saying, well, yes, but we should develop renewable energy. So criticism. Take a look at F. Pause, read, go. Welcome back. Now this is interesting. I see here, might affect rainfall patterns, right? Impact on distribution of precipitation. So it's interesting. This paragraph was about, the criticism. This one is about the effect, but I think it's also more about a problem with the solution. So if they do geoengineering, if they change things, it's going to have an impact on the rain. And they don't really say good or bad, but it sounds like they're trying to say it's bad. Then look at this, a further risk with geoengineering. So already I know problem with geoengineering. Okay, so there's another criticism. So it's interesting. This paragraph was criticism, and then this paragraph, and this paragraph, this one looks like it's going to be about criticism. So note the overall structure. They've gone and talked about a definition of a new idea. They've given 3 paragraphs. Here's how it works, here's how it works, here's how it works. And then here are some of the problems. And remember about all these English tests, they have to be well written. They have to be well organized. And that makes them predictable. You have the advantage. Go ahead, take 30 seconds, read it over. All right, welcome back. Again, same thing, problems. All right. Be warmer than they should be. All right. And the tropics will be cooler than before. And then, yeah, so again, they're saying we should avoid it. Okay. And finally, we get down to the final paragraph. Go ahead, take a look at how much my word processor doesn't like British spelling. Go ahead. All right. And again, this really does look like a bit of a warning. Because they're saying here, little faith in the ability of politicians to agree and then make cuts. So, yeah, like they're saying there's a problem with your politicians, so we need to solve this problem. All right, so the whole article is kind of a warning, but they're really just saying if we don't solve the problem this way, we will have to get this figured out. Okay, I hope that was good. I hope that kind of worked. Please remember, even if if this is easy, great, practice more. If this is hard, great, practice more. Do the work. My students where I work, they do this twice, 3, 4 times a week. And God, after like 2 or 3 weeks, they are amazing. And I'm getting lots of high scores. I'm getting, OET students are getting Bs, IELTS students are getting 8s. Like, they're just good readers. So if you want to practice, do this. But I still would recommend read every day. And also, the more you read, especially about environment and science, it just makes this easier. In fact, I would also recommend, there's a movie recommendation. It's called Snowpiercer. Take a look. The beginning of the movie is geoengineering, and then it just goes badly. So take a look. Snowpiercer, Korean movie with Chris Evans, Captain America in it. Really cool. Now, I just want to finish this up quickly for you. Let's look at the questions. These are typically the hardest questions in the IELTS test. I love it. The mention of a geoengineering project based on earlier natural phenomenon. So, a project, we know that that's going to be in the first few paragraphs. All right? That happens up here. So, a geoengineering project based on natural phenomenon. I'm kind of thinking that's got to be the volcano. So again, volcanic explosions in the Philippines. So I knew that was going to be the main example here. So we had the Philippines, they mentioned the volcano. Because I was so focused on how it works and 3 examples, that's a lot easier to remember. An example of a successful use of geoengineering. That's also going to be how it works. Successful use, that would be Moscow. So remember, I was thinking how it works, and they gave the example of Moscow, and I talked about how they did it in Moscow. How it works, that's pretty easy. A comment definition, okay, super easy. All right, manipulation of the environment, definition. Like the better you are at reading, the easier it is to remember where these things are. And, again, it's really hard to remember, oh, they talked about Moscow, but why? Because it was an example of how it works, right? How would you remember this part about the volcano? It's an example of how it works, all right? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I just want to say, please remember, read a lot. My students who do well, they just read a lot. And remember, if you come across new vocab, if you see it once, leave it alone. If you see that vocab word a few times, maybe now it's time to look it up in the dictionary. I want you guys to become an army of readers, all right? And remember, sometimes your reading days are going to be good, some days they're going to be bad, but you always, always keep working. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much. I hope you had I hope you had good luck with this. Also, if you read any of these paragraphs and you had a different idea about the main idea of the paragraph, let me know in the comments section. Anyway, have yourselves a great day. Ciao.